Now, the Prime Minister is due to travel to Berlin and Paris tomorrow for the latest Brexit talks ahead of that crucial EU summit in Brussels on Wednesday, where another delay to Britain's departure date will be discussed. During the day, cross-party communication between the government and Labour has continued in the search for possible areas of agreement at Westminster. Our political editor Laura Kuenssberg has more details.
A mood for compromise might just trickle through, sombre and slow after all the shouting. Could the government really, though, do a deal with the other side?
We don't have a majority in Parliament, and so we have to look to other parties to seek agreement that will allow us to get Brexit over the line in Parliament as the law requires. You can't go into any of those discussions with big red lines, because otherwise there's no point having them.
Given the Prime Minister's tried to hang on to them for so long, the man who wants to replace her in number 10 might take some convincing. The latest offer to the Labour tribe, welcoming a new MP today, has not accepted yet Jeremy Corbyn's plan for a customs union, a closer trading relationship with the EU than Theresa May's negotiated. But sources who've seen the document say it points to that kind of deal being possible, but only in future.
We're prepared to talk and put forward our views, but talks have to mean a movement, and so far there's been no change in those red lines.
But if rushing to a customs deal with Labour makes sense now, why has Theresa May avoided it for so long? Well, the answer is in the reluctance on her own side. She always promised she wouldn't take that step. Can she win the cabinet round now?
Are you going to go for customs union?
The Trade Secretary Liam Fox isn't the only one who would say no. Even though, as ever, there are other members of the government who completely disagree.
Will you move on a customs union, Minister?
We weren't in that small meeting.
Who'd try many doors to find a way out of all of this.
Confused me, wrong car.
The talks between the Tories and Labour are genuine. Both sides want to know if they can find a deal together to get through that place. But they wonder separately if the other side is serious. And they're a long way from a full-blown partnership. These are nervous first dates between the two. So again this week, EU leaders will discuss delay.
We're open to extending the deadline to allow time for these discussions to run their course and come to a conclusion.
The EU helps us live in peace, let's remain.
There is a tiny chance this week this whole process could explode. But while Labour and the Tories are still talking, the show is just about still on the road. But delay, not decision, is still the chorus. Laura Kuenssberg, BBC News, Westminster.
Well, as Laura was saying there's no sign of an end to the political deadlock at Westminster ahead of that EU summit on Wednesday. Many British firms have been clear that for them, a no-deal Brexit would be bad for their business. But would another delay, which is looking more likely, be better? Our business editor Simon Jack has been talking to two generations of Gloucestershire farmers to find out.
What a time to be alive. For many businesses, like this sheep farm in Gloucestershire, the world has never seemed more uncertain. One thing is certain to farmer Matt Hobbs. Like the vast majority of businesses, he thinks that leaving the EU with no deal could come at a heavy cost. In his case, £15,000 in this year alone.
On a family farm, a tenant farm, that's an enormous amount of money just to see hemorrhaging out of the business. And in reality, that's my income or gone for West, really.
Why so expensive? Well, at the moment, Matt exports lamb to the EU for £80 per animal. Leaving with no deal would mean tariffs on those exports of around 40%. Now, Matt expects that would come out of his proceeds, leaving him with around £50 per lamb. Whatever their party colours, a majority of MPs oppose no deal, which means another delay now looks likely. Is that helpful?
A delay helps me this year because it enables this crop of lambs, which are already here, so we can sell them. But I haven't been investing in anything for 2 years. I've zipped my chequebook up. So that's no good for the industry in general or the rest of the economy.
Sheep farming is perhaps one of the best examples of an industry which feels itself at the mercy of political wranglings at a really crucial time, lambing season. Where will the lambs born today be sold, at what cost? Will there be tariffs involved? And even if we get a delay, will farmers be facing the same questions a year or so from now?
That uncertainty is affecting the next generation. Matt's daughter Molly wants to take on a farm of her own.
So I've been asked to put together a 5-year business plan for a National Trust farm, but it's a bit impossible to predict what we'll be earning in the next 5 years when we don't even know the next 5 months.
The EU protects its farmers. That's one of its great flaws, say some. But that doesn't mean that leaving the fold is easy or painless. Simon Jack, BBC News.
So Theresa May will be travelling to Berlin and to Paris tomorrow for talks with the German Chancellor and the French President ahead of that summit on Wednesday. Let's go to our Europe editor, Katya Adler, in Brussels. Katya, is there a sense there in Berlin and Paris of what Mrs May is likely to be saying in these meetings?
Well, Hugh, first off, we've discussed over and over again how fed up EU leaders are with this ongoing Brexit process. But, they are welcoming this contact with the Prime Minister ahead of Wednesday's Brexit summit. She doesn't have a great track record in getting the tone right on the night at EU meetings. And the EU feels that with a no-deal Brexit looming on Friday, this is not the time for misunderstandings. Now, in Paris and Berlin, there is very little expectation of an imminent breakthrough in those cross-party talks with Jeremy Corbyn. So what Emmanuel Macron and Angela Merkel want to hear is, what is Theresa May's plan B? Mr. Macron says if she doesn't have one, she can't have an extension. What we have to bear in mind, Hugh, is that EU leaders are also coming under pressure at home for repeatedly kicking that Brexit can down the road, because this uncertainty is very bad for EU businesses as well. And there is a theory here in EU circles that Theresa May actually wants the EU to do her dirty work for her, that she asked for a short new Brexit extension, so up until the 30th of June, because politically that was easier for her. But this is the theory, she's actually hoping EU leaders will say she has to accept a longer extension, because actually that is what she needs. Now, if this is what the Prime Minister is hoping for, she could be disappointed, because EU leaders are still divided as to how long an extension should be and exactly which conditions should be attached. But one thing unites them at the moment, and that is that any extension that goes beyond the 2nd of May would need to see the United Kingdom taking part in elections for the European Parliament.
Katya, many thanks again. Katya Adler there with the latest for us in Brussels.